World War I, also known as the Great War, lasted from 1914 to 1918 and was one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. It involved many of the world's major powers divided into two main alliances, the Allied powers and the Central Powers. The war began with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary on June 28, 1914 in Sarajevo. This event triggered a series of diplomatic crises that quickly escalated into a full-scale war, as countries mobilized their armies and declared war on each other. One of the primary causes of World War I was the growing tensions between European nations due to militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Militarism played a significant role, as European powers had been increasing the size and capability of their armies and navies for years. Alliances, such as the Triple Entente, France, Britain, and Russia, and the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, created a fragile balance of power that, when disrupted, led to a massive war. Imperialism fueled competition among nations for colonies and resources, while nationalism increased tensions between ethnic groups and nations striving for independence. The major participants in the war included Britain, France, Russia, Italy, Japan, and later the United States on the side of the Allies, while Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire formed the Central Powers. Each side believed the war would be short and decisive, but it soon turned into a prolonged and bloody conflict. Trench warfare became a defining feature of World War I, with soldiers digging extensive networks of trenches to shield themselves from enemy fire. This type of warfare led to brutal and stagnant battles, such as the Battle of the Somme and the Battle of Verdun, where hundreds of thousands of soldiers perished for minimal territorial gains. The war saw the introduction of new military technology and tactics that changed the nature of warfare forever. Machine guns made it nearly impossible for soldiers to advance across open fields without suffering heavy casualties. Poison gas, including chlorine and mustard gas, was used to incapacitate and kill enemy troops, leading to some of the war's most horrific injuries. Tanks were first introduced by the British in 1916 as a way to break through enemy lines, but early models were slow and unreliable. Airplanes, initially used for reconnaissance, eventually became key tools for aerial combat and bombing missions, marking the beginning of modern air warfare. Beyond the battlefield, World War I had a profound impact on civilians. Many towns and villages were destroyed, and food shortages became a widespread issue. Governments implemented rationing and propaganda campaigns to maintain public support for the war effort. Women played a crucial role in keeping industries and economies running, taking on jobs traditionally held by men. Their contributions helped change societal attitudes toward gender roles and played a major role in the push for women's suffrage in several countries. The United States entered the war in 1917 after German submarines repeatedly attacked American ships, and the infamous Zimmermann telegram was intercepted. This secret communication from Germany to Mexico proposed a military alliance against the U.S. in exchange for territory. The American entry into the war provided fresh troops and resources, which helped tip the balance in favor of the Allies. By late 1918, the Central Powers were exhausted, and Germany agreed to an armistice on November 11, 1918, ending the fighting. The war officially concluded with the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. This treaty placed heavy penalties on Germany, including territorial losses, military restrictions, and massive financial reparations. These harsh conditions created resentment within Germany and played a significant role in the rise of Adolf Hitler and the outbreak of World War II just 2 decades later. Other treaties led to the dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires, drastically changing the political map of Europe and the Middle East. World War I reshaped the global political landscape. The League of Nations was established to prevent future conflicts, though it ultimately failed to stop World War II. The war accelerated technological advancements and introduced new warfare tactics that would shape future conflicts. The economic impact was devastating, with many European countries struggling to recover in the post-war years. The war also led to the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, which spread rapidly due to the movement of troops and poor living conditions, killing millions worldwide. Despite being overshadowed by World War II, World War I remains one of the most important events in modern history. It not only changed national borders, but also left a lasting impact on global politics, warfare, and society. The sacrifices of millions of soldiers and civilians are commemorated each year on November 11, known as Armistice Day, Remembrance Day, or Veterans Day in different countries. The war serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of global conflict and the importance of diplomacy in maintaining peace. In addition to its political and military effects, World War I also had a profound cultural impact. The brutality of trench warfare and the scale of human suffering led to a disillusionment with traditional ideas of heroism and glory in war. This disillusionment was reflected in the works of poets, writers, and artists of the time. Writers such as Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, and Erich Maria Remarque captured the horrors of war in their poetry and novels. The phrase, "the war to end all wars," was often used, reflecting the hope that such a devastating conflict would never be repeated. The war also spurred advancements in medicine and surgery. Battlefield injuries required new techniques in surgery and prosthetics, leading to significant progress in the medical field. Blood transfusions, plastic surgery, and psychiatric treatments for what was then called shell shock, now known as PTSD, became more developed due to the war's unprecedented number of casualties. World War I also had lasting economic effects. Many European economies were severely weakened by the war, leading to high inflation, unemployment, and economic instability. The United States emerged as a dominant global power, while European colonial empires began to weaken. Nationalist movements in colonies gained momentum, eventually leading to decolonization in the decades following the war. The war also changed the role of governments in people's lives. The concept of total war, where entire nations mobilized for the conflict, led to increased government control over economies, industries, and propaganda. Many governments introduced war bonds, increased taxes, and controlled the production of essential goods. These changes laid the groundwork for the expanded role of governments in economic and social affairs in the 20th century. Another major consequence of World War I was the Russian Revolution of 1917. The hardships of the war contributed to widespread discontent in Russia, leading to the overthrow of the monarchy and the rise of the Soviet Union. This revolution had a profound impact on global politics and contributed to the ideological struggle between communism and capitalism that would shape much of the 20th century. The effects of World War I continue to be felt today. Many of the borders drawn after the war, especially in the Middle East, remain points of. The lessons learned from the war influenced international policies and military strategies throughout the 20th century. The war also set the stage for major geopolitical shifts, including the rise of fascism, the Great Depression, and ultimately World War II. World War I was a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. It changed the world in ways that are still evident today. From the fall of empires to the evolution of warfare, medicine, and politics. Understanding the causes, events, and consequences of the war helps us appreciate its historical significance and ensures that the sacrifices made by millions are never forgotten.